Let's start our first news with Jake Paul hitting back at the recent claims surrounding Khabib and the PFL championship belt. After Usman Nurmagomedov successfully defended his title with a stunning first-round knockout over Archie Colgan, a viral moment quickly started making waves online. Some fans were upset after seeing Jake Paul taking up space inside the cage during the championship presentation. Others went even further, claiming that Khabib had snatched the PFL belt away from Paul before presenting it to his cousin. A viral clip appeared to show Khabib taking the belt from Paul and then placing it around Usman's waist. But according to Paul, there was absolutely no drama behind the moment. Paul explained that this was something he had actually planned himself. He said that before handing Khabib the belt, he specifically told him that he should be the one to give it to his cousin and put it around his waist. Paul made it clear that he didn't want the spotlight during the celebration. He said the moment was supposed to be about the fighters, not the promoter. He also pointed out that this type of celebration is nothing unusual for Team Nurmagomedov, and similar moments have happened when Islam competes in the UFC. Paul then addressed the online criticism, saying that he had intentionally asked Khabib to take the belt because it would be a much cooler moment for him to present it to his cousin. According to Paul, the entire situation was simply turned into another internet controversy. He ended by pushing back at the critics, arguing that people often interpret his messages based on whether they already like or dislike him. So, while the viral clip made it look like Khabib had taken the belt from Jake Paul, Paul says the reality was completely different. Move on to another news, and this one involves Usman and Charles Oliveira, with a major update regarding the BMF belt. When the matchup between Usman and Charles Oliveira was first reported, many fans believed the fight would be for the BMF title. That immediately sparked debate, with some questioning whether this particular matchup was even worthy of having the belt on the line. However, according to a new report, the BMF championship will not be contested when these two lightweight stars meet. The fight is currently expected to take place at UFC 331 on September 19th in Los Angeles. MMA reporter Leo Jime reported that, after verification, the UFC's current decision is for Usman and Charles to compete in a 5-round fight, but with no title at stake, including the BMF championship. Interestingly, the fight was originally planned as a 3-round matchup. Both fighters had reportedly started preparing under that expectation, but the UFC later changed course and turned the contest into a 25-minute fight. There are also other major fights connected to the UFC 331 card. Joshua Van versus Alexandra Pantoja has been officially confirmed, while the previously scheduled matchup between Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes has been postponed. The decision surrounding the BMF belt is particularly interesting because fans have already expressed frustration over how Oliveira was involved in securing the championship for Max Holloway back in March. Now, the UFC may have decided that putting the BMF title on the line between Usman and Oliveira was simply too risky. Both fighters are known for their grappling-heavy approaches, and that could potentially clash with the kind of wild, action-packed style traditionally associated with the BMF championship. For now, the matchup is expected to remain a 5-round non-title fight, making the stakes high without any championship belt on the line. Move on to another news, and this one could be a huge development for Usman Nurmagomedov and his MMA future. After Usman picked up a spectacular victory over Archie Colgan at PFL New York on Friday night, the conversation immediately shifted toward what comes next for the undefeated lightweight star. Usman's PFL contract has now officially come to an end, and that has opened the door to a potential move to the UFC. Considering his connection to Khabib and his reputation as one of the most talented fighters outside the UFC, many fans have been wondering whether Dana White and the UFC will finally make a serious push to sign him. Well, Dana White was recently asked about the possibility, and his response immediately caught everyone's attention. During the post-fight press conference, Dana was asked about potentially signing Usman. His answer was incredibly simple: sure. That's it. But what made the response even more interesting was the way Dana delivered it. He reportedly had a big smile on his face when giving the answer, which naturally fueled even more speculation about what could happen next. the story didn't stop there. After the response was reported by Champ Brown on X, Dana White also reacted directly in the comments, posting a smiling emoji. And while that obviously isn't an official announcement, it's certainly an interesting sign. Usman has now completed his PFL run, and he couldn't have done it in a much more impressive way. He successfully defended his lightweight championship with a devastating first-round knockout over Colgan, ending his PFL contract on a huge high note. That performance also reminded everyone why Usman has been viewed as one of the most promising fighters in the lightweight division. With the UFC lightweight roster already stacked with elite competition, a potential arrival from Usman could create some very interesting matchups. His wrestling, movement, striking, and championship experience could make him an immediate threat to some of the biggest names in the division. And, of course, having Khabib in his corner would make the storyline even more compelling. For now, nothing has been officially announced, so fans will have to wait for the UFC and Usman to make the next move. But Dana's reaction certainly doesn't sound like someone who is closing the door. If anything, it looks like the UFC is very interested, and Usman's next chapter could be inside the octagon. Move on to another news, and this one involves some very interesting potential opponents for Usman Nurmagomedov if he makes the move to the UFC. Javier Mendez, Usman's coach, has already started looking at possible matchups for his UFC debut, and some of the names he mentioned could immediately put Usman into the deep end of the lightweight division. In a recent interview with Submission Radio, Mendez discussed several fighters he believes could make sense for Usman's arrival in the UFC. The first names he mentioned were Arman and Ilya. Mendez described those matchups as the fights he would want to see for Usman, particularly because both fighters are among the biggest names in the division. However, Mendez also made it clear that the UFC debut isn't entirely up to him. If Usman does make the move, the final decision regarding his opponent will ultimately depend on Usman and the UFC. And that's where things get especially interesting. Mendez suggested that Usman could potentially be matched with someone like Paddy Pimblett. A fight against Paddy would obviously bring a huge amount of attention, considering Paddy's popularity and growing position within the lightweight division. Mendez also mentioned another possibility in Max Holloway. So, there are already several potential directions for Usman's UFC debut. But Mendez believes the UFC would likely give Usman a fighter around the top 5 of the division rather than immediately throwing him into a championship fight. Among the names discussed, Arman appears to be one of the more realistic possibilities. Mendez pointed out that Arman isn't currently the champion, which could make that matchup easier to arrange. If Usman enters the UFC and the promotion wants to test him immediately against a highly ranked contender, Arman could potentially make a lot of sense. As for Ilya, Mendez doesn't seem to believe that matchup would be as likely. Ilya's position near the top of the division could make that fight more difficult to put together, especially depending on what happens with the championship picture. Still, the idea of Usman facing one of these elite lightweights is incredibly intriguing. Usman would enter the UFC with an undefeated record, championship experience, and a strong reputation as one of the most talented fighters outside the promotion. Whether his first opponent is Arman, Paddy, Max, or another top contender, his UFC debut could be a major test from the very beginning. Move on to another news, and this one involves Ian Garry and a controversial situation surrounding gym etiquette ahead of his fight with Islam Makhachev. The controversy began after Ian's sparring partner, Alex Pandya, released footage from a grappling session that showed Ian being controlled on the ground. The clip quickly went viral, and Ian reportedly became extremely upset about the recording. However, Alex has now shared his side of the story, and his version adds another layer to the controversy. According to Alex, Ian's frustration wasn't only about the footage being released. He claims that recording sparring sessions was considered a serious violation of gym rules. Alex said that after the footage was posted, Ian personally contacted him and asked him to come to the gym so they could discuss the situation face to face. Alex agreed, and the two eventually met later that same day. He explained that when he first met Ian, there were no problems between them. He described Ian as respectful and said he had always considered him a very good fighter. But then, Alex made another claim that caught everyone's attention. He said that just weeks before Ian's upcoming fight with Islam, Ian had been training at Leon Edwards' gym in London and was allegedly kicked out permanently after recording people during training. According to Alex, Ian was asked not to record certain training sessions, but allegedly continued filming. Alex believes the situation is ironic because Ian had previously criticized him over recording their sparring session, while allegedly being involved in a similar situation himself. Alex also explained that during their original sparring session, Ian was apparently filming the training as well. He claimed that nobody from Ian's team objected at the time, while his own wife was also recording from outside the cage. After the footage went public, however, the situation changed dramatically. Alex believes Ian may have been particularly frustrated because his fight with Islam was approaching, and the clip suddenly began spreading across social media. The entire situation has now raised questions about gym etiquette, privacy, and where fighters should draw the line when it comes to recording private training sessions. For now, these claims come from Alex's account of the events, while the full circumstances surrounding the gym situation remain a matter of debate. Move on to another news, and this one involves Islam Makhachev opening up about his motivation and long-term future ahead of his upcoming fight with Garry. Islam has raised some concerns about what could motivate him after he has already accomplished so much in the sport. While he made it clear that the fight with Ian will not be his last, he admitted that staying motivated is becoming increasingly difficult. Earlier in his career, Islam had clear goals. First, he dreamed of becoming a UFC champion. After winning the lightweight title and successfully defending it multiple times, his next goal became becoming a two-division champion. Now, he's accomplished that as well. Islam currently holds the welterweight championship and has built an incredible winning streak. He also mentioned that he's approaching another major milestone, which could give him additional motivation to keep competing at the highest level. But despite all these achievements, Islam admitted that finding the next big goal is hard. He explained that one of the things that still motivates him is the reality of competition itself. Once he steps inside the cage, he knows that if he's not prepared, his opponent is going to punish him. That's why he continues to train hard, stay focused, and prepare seriously for every fight. And that's especially important right now because the welterweight division is packed with elite contenders. Garry is waiting for him, while fighters such as Michael Morales, Carlos Pratis, and Shavkat Rakhmonov are also part of an increasingly competitive title picture. So, even though Islam may feel like he's running out of goals, there are still plenty of challenges ahead. If he continues fighting the best 170-pound fighters in the UFC, Islam has an opportunity to build an even greater legacy before eventually deciding when it's time to walk away. For now, the Ian fight remains his focus. And despite his comments about motivation, Islam is clearly still preparing to compete at the highest level. Move on to another news, and this one involves Javier Mendez revealing why he believes Islam Makhachev could eventually become an excellent coach. According to Mendez, Islam is beginning to show the same coaching instincts that made Khabib such an influential figure inside and outside the cage. Mendez explained that Islam has always had a strong mentoring side, and he has frequently been involved in his teammates' corners when he wasn't preparing for his own fights. In fact, this isn't something new for Islam. According to Mendez, Islam has already worked numerous corners alongside the team, offering advice and helping fighters make adjustments during their preparation and fights. What makes this especially interesting is the similarity to Khabib's approach. Mendez recalled how Khabib would finish his own sparring sessions, but then stay at the gym to watch his teammates train. Instead of simply leaving, he would study their sparring, identify mistakes, and give them advice. And now, Mendez says Islam is doing the exact same thing. Islam isn't only focused on his own preparation anymore. He's also paying close attention to the fighters around him, studying their techniques and helping them improve. Mendez described Islam as an exceptional corner who genuinely cares about his teammates. He believes that championship experience has only strengthened Islam's ability to understand what fighters need inside the gym and during competition. Mendez also highlighted Islam's contribution to Usman's recent success. According to him, Islam shared a setup with Usman that he had personally used during his fight against Alexander Volkanovski. That detail shows just how valuable Islam's experience can be to the next generation of fighters around him. And if this continues, Islam could eventually transition into coaching after his own fighting career comes to an end. For now, he's still competing at the highest level, but his growing role inside the gym suggests that his impact could extend far beyond his own championship career. Just like Khabib, Islam may be building a second legacy, this time as a mentor and coach.